She only offered him a cup of water, but she had no idea it would change her entire life. And what she saw next would shock her so much. Her heart nearly stopped. The rain drizzled over New York City, turning the streets into a blur of shimmering lights and reflections. People hurried past, clutching umbrellas, their faces tight with focus and fatigue. No one noticed the small cafe tucked in the corner, where Sofia was wiping down the counter, her apron damp from steam and rain. Her eyes, however, were drawn to the sidewalk outside, where a man stood alone. He wasn't asking for help. He wasn't panhandling. He simply existed there, shoulders hunched against the cold, head slightly bowed. There was something about him, something quietly broken, that made Sofia's chest tighten. Without thinking, she grabbed a cup of steaming water and stepped outside. The rain kissed her hair and face, cold but refreshing, as she approached him. "Here, you look like you could use this," she said softly, holding out the cup. He looked up, and in that instant, time seemed to still. His eyes, deep, tired, and yet impossibly intense, locked onto hers. Sofia felt a flutter she didn't understand, a strange mix of curiosity, worry, and something like destiny. "Thank you," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. As he took the cup, his fingers brushed hers, and she felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern threading through her voice. He hesitated, then gave a small, almost sad smile. "I'll be fine." Really? But Sofia knew better. She always seemed to know. "Do you want to come in? At least get out of the rain for a minute?" she offered, trying to sound casual. He looked at her for a long moment. Something in his gaze shifted, a subtle vulnerability that he didn't show anyone else. Finally, he nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." Inside the cafe, the warm air wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Sofia guided him to a corner table, trying not to stare too openly. She couldn't help it. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her heart beat faster, a strange pull she hadn't felt in years. "Can I get you something more than water?" she asked, her voice almost trembling with a mix of shyness and hope. He shook his head, smiling faintly. "No, this is enough for now. I appreciate it." Minutes passed in silence, punctuated only by the sound of rain tapping against the windows and the occasional hum of a coffee machine. Sofia tried to make small talk, asking about his day, the weather, anything to break the tension. But he seemed lost in thought, eyes distant, as if carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You know, not many people would do this. Offer a stranger a cup of water or a moment of kindness without expecting anything in return." Sofia's heart skipped. Maybe people just forget to notice," she said softly. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of emotion that went deeper than gratitude. Pain, yes, but also something else. Something unspoken. "My name's Adrian," he said finally. "Sofia," she replied, and for some reason, saying her name aloud felt like declaring a piece of herself. Adrian nodded once, as if sealing an unspoken agreement. "Sofia, I think meeting you today might have been the luckiest thing that's happened to me in a long time." Sofia's lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. She didn't know why, but she believed him. Somehow, deep down, she knew this wasn't just a fleeting encounter. The cafe bell rang as a customer entered, breaking the quiet bubble around them. Adrian set the cup down, his gaze lingering on her. "I should go. I don't want to intrude." Sofia shook her head. "You're not intruding. Stay if you want." For a moment, he hesitated. Then, slowly, he smiled, just a small curve of his lips, and nodded. "Okay, just for a while." And so it began. The rain outside had slowed to a soft drizzle, but inside the cafe, the air seemed warmer than usual. Sofia watched Adrian sip the steaming water slowly, his eyes occasionally drifting to the window, lost in thought. There was something about the way he carried himself, reserved yet intense, that kept her curiosity alive. "So, you come here often?" Sofia asked, trying to sound casual, while sliding a napkin across the table. Adrian's lips quirked into a small smile. "Not really. I usually keep to myself." He paused, then added softly, "But somehow today, I'm glad I didn't." Sofia felt her heart flutter. There was honesty in his voice, a rawness that made her want to know more. She realized she had never met someone who could make her feel so awake, just by existing in the same space. "Awake?" Adrian asked, his gaze finally meeting hers, dark eyes intense. Sofia blinked, a little embarrassed. I mean, you just stand out. Even in the rain. Even when you're quiet." He studied her for a long moment. "You notice things most people ignore," he said quietly. "It's rare." That small exchange, simple as it was, felt monumental to Sofia. Her chest warmed, a quiet electricity filling the space between them. And yet, there was a shadow in his gaze, something unspoken, something he wasn't telling her. For the next hour, they spoke cautiously. Sofia asked about his work, his interests, the little things that made a person who they were. Adrian answered in fragments, careful with his words, yet each sentence seemed to hint at a life full of layers. "You're mysterious," Sofia said finally, a teasing note in her voice. "I feel like you're hiding stories behind those eyes." Adrian chuckled softly, almost bitterly. "Maybe I am. Maybe some things are better left hidden." The clock ticked, unnoticed. Rain had stopped completely, leaving the streets glistening under the dim glow of streetlights. Yet inside the cafe, time felt suspended. Sofia realized she hadn't felt this way in years, safe, intrigued, drawn to someone in a way that scared her and thrilled her all at once. Finally, Adrian set his cup down and sighed. "Sofia, I should probably leave now." But he hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. "I don't want this to end." Sofia's heart skipped. She wanted to reach out, to stop him, to ask him to stay forever. But she didn't. Instead, she smiled softly. "Then don't let it end. Stay a little longer." And so he did. Over the next few days, Adrian returned to the cafe almost every morning. Rain or shine, he found his way to Sofia's table. They talked about everything, from favorite books to childhood memories, from hopes to fears. Every conversation drew them closer, weaving a silent thread of connection that neither of them could name, but both felt deeply. One evening, as the city lights reflected off wet streets, Adrian finally shared a fragment of his story. "I came to New York chasing something, or maybe running from it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Life, it's complicated. My past, it's not something I like to show anyone." Sofia reached across the table, her hand brushing his. "You don't have to share everything right away," she said gently. "Just let me be here. That's enough for now." Adrian looked at her, and for a brief moment, his guarded expression softened. He nodded slowly. "I think I could get used to that." The connection between them deepened with every encounter, subtle yet undeniable. The way Adrian looked at Sofia, the small smiles, the pauses that said more than words ever could, it all built a tension that was intoxicating. One rainy afternoon, as Sofia closed the cafe for the day, Adrian lingered outside, waiting. "Walk with me," he asked. She nodded, pulling her coat tighter. Together, they wandered through the quiet streets, the city lights casting golden reflections on the wet pavement. They talked, laughed, and sometimes walked in silence, the comfort between them growing with each step. At one point, Adrian stopped, turning to face her fully. The rain had started again, but he didn't move to seek shelter. "Sofia, I don't usually say things like this," he admitted, voice low. "But I feel like I've known you far longer than I should have." Sofia's heart raced. She felt it too, a pull she couldn't explain. She stepped closer. "I feel it too," she whispered. And then, as the rain fell around them, Adrian reached out, gently brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. His eyes searched hers for permission, and in that moment, Sofia knew, whatever this was, it was just the beginning. The city had quieted down as night settled over New York. Streetlights flickered in the misty rain, casting soft golden reflections across the wet pavement. Sofia and Adrian walked side by side, their hands brushing occasionally, sending subtle sparks up Sofia's arm each time. Neither spoke, but the silence was comfortable, filled with unspoken words and growing tension. They stopped near a small park, the faint sound of a distant fountain echoing through the night. Adrian looked at Sofia, his expression unusually serious. "Sofia," There's something I haven't told you, he said, his voice low, hesitant. Her heart skipped. What is it? She asked softly, sensing the weight behind his words. Adrian ran a hand through his damp hair, staring down at the cobblestone path. I'm not who you think I am. At least, not entirely. Sofia's breath caught. The connection she felt with him, the way she trusted him without knowing him fully, it all threatened to shift. What do you mean? She asked cautiously, but her curiosity outweighed her fear. I can't tell you everything yet, he admitted, his voice tinged with pain. There are people, circumstances, that could make this dangerous for you if you knew too soon. Sofia's eyes widened, a mix of concern and intrigue rushing through her. Dangerous? Adrian, what are you talking about? He shook his head slowly. I can't explain yet, but I promise. I'm here, with you, and I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone. The sincerity in his eyes made Sofia's chest ache. Despite the shadows in his past, the mystery that clung to him, she felt drawn to him more than ever. Something told her that Adrian wasn't hiding from her because he didn't trust her. He was protecting her. For a moment, the tension between them melted. Adrian reached out, taking her hand in his. Sofia, I want you to know that meeting you, it's changed me. Completely. And I don't want to imagine my life without you now. Sofia's lips trembled with emotion. I feel the same, she whispered. Even if I don't know everything about you, I want to be with you. He smiled faintly, relief and affection flickering across his features. Then let's take it slow, he said, squeezing her hand gently, step by step. Over the next few weeks, Adrian and Sofia grew closer. Their mornings together at the cafe became a ritual, their conversations deeper, more intimate. Each smile, each shared glance, each accidental touch built a connection that neither could deny. One afternoon, as Sofia stacked pastries behind the counter, Adrian appeared in the doorway, drenched from the rain. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by urgency. Sofia, I need to talk to you, he said, his voice tense. Alarmed, she wiped her hands on her apron. What is it? He hesitated, then stepped closer. It's about my past, the reason I came to New York. There are people looking for me. People I can't explain right now. I've tried to keep you safe. But, his jaw tightened, a flicker of fear crossing his face. Sofia's heart pounded. She wanted to be angry, to demand answers, but the vulnerability in his eyes stopped her. Adrian, I trust you. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. A shadow of relief passed over him. Thank you, Sofia. I don't deserve your trust yet, but I'll earn it. I swear. And in that moment, as the rain tapped against the cafe windows, Sofia realized that love wasn't just about knowing everything. It was about choosing to stay, even when the future was uncertain. That night, after the cafe closed, Adrian walked Sofia to her apartment. The streets glistened under the lamplight, empty except for the occasional car passing by. He stopped in front of her building, turning to face her fully. Sofia, there's something I need to tell you tomorrow, he said, his voice soft but firm. It's important, and I want you to be ready. Sofia nodded, heart racing. Whatever it is, I'll be here. He leaned in for a brief, lingering kiss, the kind that spoke of longing, fear, and hope all at once. As he pulled away, he whispered, Sleep well, and dream of us. Sofia watched him disappear into the night, a strange mixture of excitement and anxiety twisting inside her. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. Her life had irrevocably changed the day she gave a stranger a cup of water. And now, the real story was about to begin. The next morning, the sun barely peeked through the gray clouds over New York. Sofia arrived at the cafe earlier than usual, her mind restless. She couldn't stop thinking about Adrian's words from last night. There's something I need to tell you tomorrow. It's important. Her curiosity had her heart racing. By mid-morning, Adrian finally appeared. His usual calm demeanor was gone. His eyes, once soft and inviting, now held an intensity that made Sofia's stomach tighten. Hey, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. You said you wanted to tell me something? He nodded, glancing around to make sure no one was nearby. It's not easy to say, Sofia. And I need you to promise me something before I speak. Anything, she replied, gripping the counter for support. Promise me you'll stay calm. Don't panic. And don't judge me. Sofia's chest tightened. She nodded. I promise. Adrian took a deep breath. I didn't come to New York just to start over. I came here because I had to disappear. There are people, dangerous people, who have been after me for years, and they're very good at finding people they want. Sofia's eyes widened, her mind racing. Why? Who are they? He shook his head. I can't tell you everything yet, but I will say this. I've had to hide who I really am, and sometimes my life has involved things I'm not proud of. People I've crossed, or who have crossed me. It's complicated. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just mystery, it was danger. And yet she felt an inexplicable pull toward him, stronger than any fear. Adrian, I don't care about your past, she said firmly. I care about who you are right now. With me. That's all that matters. He looked at her, and for a moment, the weight on his shoulders seemed to lift. Sofia, I don't deserve you, but I promise I'll protect you no matter what. Over the next week, Adrian became more cautious. He avoided certain streets, kept an eye out for anyone following him, and sometimes disappeared for hours without explanation. Sofia worried but never stopped trusting him. One evening, as the cafe closed, Adrian grabbed her hand urgently. We need to leave. Now. What? Why? She asked, panic rising. Someone's been watching me, he said grimly. I don't know their intentions yet, but I won't let them get close to you. They stepped into the night. The rain had returned, heavy and relentless, soaking them instantly. Sofia shivered, but Adrian wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. Their hands stayed locked, their bodies pressed close for warmth and safety. They ducked into a quiet alley, shadows stretching across the walls. Sofia's heart raced, not just from fear, but from the closeness of Adrian. This is scary, she whispered. He cupped her face gently. I know, but you're safe with me. I won't let anything happen to you. And in that moment, Sofia felt the full depth of her feelings for him. She realized that she didn't just care about Adrian. She trusted him with her life, her heart, her everything. That night, in a tiny safe apartment Adrian had secured, they sat together in silence, listening to the rain. Adrian's hand never left hers. Why me? Sofia finally asked, her voice barely audible. Why you? Adrian repeated, a small, tired smile touching his lips. Because in a life full of shadows, you're the only light I've ever seen. And I can't let that go. Sofia's eyes glistened. She leaned against him, feeling the warmth and safety he provided. Then don't. Stay. I will, he whispered, kissing the top of her head. I'll stay, and I'll fight for us. Always. The next morning, New York was drenched in an uneasy silence. Rain had finally stopped, but the streets glistened, reflecting the city's muted light. Sofia couldn't sleep all night, her mind replaying Adrian's words over and over. Dangerous people, hiding, protecting me. She arrived at the cafe, trying to act normal, but her heart pounded with anxiety. Every stranger passing by made her flinch. And then she saw him, Adrian, walking toward her with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. Sofia, he said softly, grabbing her hand as she set down her bag. We need to talk. Now. Alarm bells rang in her chest. What happened? He pulled her into a quiet corner behind the counter. Someone's been following me. I thought I could manage it, keep you safe. But his voice faltered, and his hand tightened around hers. They're closer than I thought. You can't stay here, not alone. It's too dangerous. Fear rose in Sofia's chest, but so did determination. Then we'll face it together, she said firmly. I'm not leaving you. Adrian stared at her, surprise and admiration flickering in his eyes. You don't understand, Sofia. You have no idea what's coming. This isn't just some stalker or jealous ex. These people, they're ruthless. And if they find you... He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. Sofia swallowed her fear. Then we fight them. Together. That evening, Adrian led Sofia to a safe location, a small, dimly lit apartment on the outskirts of the city. He had secured it himself, every window reinforced, every door checked. Here, he said, gesturing around the room. No one can find you here. You'll be safe for now. Sofia looked around, trying to process the gravity of the situation. Adrian, why didn't you tell me sooner? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I wanted to. I wanted to protect you from knowing all the danger, from worrying. But you've been part of my life since the first moment we met. You deserve the truth, no matter how messy it is. Sofia's heart ached at his words. She had fallen for him completely, but now she saw the full weight of his world, the shadows that followed him, the secrets he carried. Adrian, I'm not afraid, she said softly. Not if you're with me. He looked at her, and for the first time, his walls began to crumble. Sofia, you're extraordinary. You've got this courage I've never seen in anyone else. And I can't lose you. They moved closer, their foreheads touching, breathing mingling. The fear outside seemed distant now, irrelevant in the face of the bond that had grown between them. And then, as if the universe itself was testing them, a sudden noise outside the window caught their attention. A shadow moving too quickly, too deliberately. Adrian's eyes sharpened. They found us, he whispered. Sofia's pulse quickened. Fear and adrenaline coursed through her veins, but so did resolve. She gripped Adrian's hand tightly. Then we faced them, she said, voice firm. Adrian's lips curved into a determined, almost defiant smile. Yes, together. That night marked a turning point. The couple, once just two strangers sharing a fleeting connection, were now bound by trust, courage, and the intensity of circumstances neither had anticipated. Every moment together became more precious, every glance heavier, with unspoken emotions. As the city slept, Sofia and Adrian planned, prepared, and waited. Outside, shadows lurked. Inside, hearts beat in unison. Two people against the world, and against the secrets that threatened to tear them apart. The city was quiet that night, but Sofia's heart raced. Every distant sound, car engines, footsteps, a faint echo of a siren, made her jump. She clutched Adrian's hand as he paced the small apartment, eyes scanning every corner like a predator ready to strike. Are you sure they won't find us here? Sofia asked, her voice trembling despite her attempt at courage. Adrian shook his head. I've done everything I can, but they're smart. They know my patterns. They know I care about you. Her chest tightened. Adrian, I don't care if it's dangerous. I'm staying with you. He stopped pacing and looked at her, his eyes dark with intensity. Sofia, it's not just dangerous. It could destroy everything you've ever known. You have to understand that. I understand, she said, stepping closer. But I also know I can't leave you. Not now, not ever. Adrian's expression softened, a flicker of relief passing through his eyes. You're incredible, Sofia, braver than anyone I've ever met. Before Sofia could respond, a loud crash echoed from the front entrance. Both of them froze. Adrian moved instinctively, pulling her behind a reinforced door. They're here, he whispered. Sofia's breath caught in her throat. Outside, muffled voices argued, and the sound of footsteps pounded closer. Her hand trembled in Adrian's grip, but he didn't let go. Stay behind me, he instructed, moving silently toward the front. Sofia watched, a mix of fear and admiration coursing through her. Adrian wasn't just protective. He was fierce, calculating, and utterly determined to keep her safe. Moments later, the door shook violently. A man's voice shouted, "Open up, Adrian. We know you're here." Adrian's jaw tightened. Sofia, stay down. I'll handle this. The hours that followed were a blur of tense whispers, careful movements, and the constant hum of adrenaline. Sofia realized, more clearly than ever, how dangerous Adrian's world was, but also how deeply she cared for him. Finally, the footsteps retreated. The danger momentarily passed. Adrian returned, closing the door behind him, his face a mixture of exhaustion and relief. You okay? He asked, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. I am because you're here, Sofia said, her voice barely audible. She stepped closer, wrapping her arms around him. Adrian held her tightly, pressing his lips to her forehead. You have no idea how much that means to me, he whispered. In the quiet aftermath, as rain pattered against the windows, Sofia realized something undeniable. Love wasn't just about warmth and comfort. It was about trust, courage, and standing together, even when the shadows of the past threatened to swallow them whole. The sun rose over New York, but Sofia barely noticed it. Her mind replayed the events of the previous night, the pounding footsteps, Adrian's unwavering courage, and the fear that had surged through her chest. She had never felt so alive and terrified at the same time. Adrian arrived at the cafe later than usual, looking worn but determined. His usual calm and composed demeanor was replaced by something heavier, something Sofia couldn't quite read. "Sofia," he began, lowering his voice as he pulled a chair close to hers. "I think it's time you knew the truth. Everything." Her heart skipped a beat. "All of it?" she asked cautiously, gripping the edge of the table. He nodded. "Yes. My life before you, before New York, wasn't clean. I've made choices, fought people I shouldn't have, and there are consequences that are catching up to me. And now, Sofia, they're looking for me, and for you because of me." Sofia's chest tightened. The thought of danger, of people targeting her because of Adrian, sent a cold shiver down her spine. Yet she didn't flinch. "I'm not leaving you," she said firmly. "I don't care about your past. I care about you right here, right now." Adrian studied her, eyes glistening with a mixture of awe and guilt. "You're remarkable, braver than anyone I've ever met. But you have no idea what I'm about to tell you. It's dangerous, and it might change how you see me." Sofia nodded. "I trust you. I've trusted you from the first moment we met." He exhaled, as if unburdening years of weight. "Before coming to New York, I was part of something bigger, a world filled with power, money, and people who would do anything to get what they want. I escaped. I had to disappear. And that's why I came here, to start over, to find a life, maybe even love." Sofia's eyes widened. "Love?" Adrian took her hands in his. "Yes, Sofia. Love. And I found it with you. But that past, those people, they don't forgive. They don't forget. And they will come for me, or for anyone close to me, including you." Sofia felt a mix of fear and determination. Her heartbeat raced, but she didn't look away. "Then we face it together. Whatever it is, I'm not leaving you." Adrian's lips curved into a faint smile, relief and admiration flickering across his features. "You're incredible. I don't deserve you, but I swear I'll protect you, no matter what." That night, Adrian took Sofia to a secluded apartment he had prepared in advance, a safe place away from prying eyes. They sat close together, sharing warmth and quiet conversation. "Do you ever regret coming here? Staying with me?" Sofia asked softly, her head resting on his shoulder. Adrian shook his head. "Not once. Even with the danger, even with everything, meeting you was worth it. You make me want to be better, not just for myself, but for us." Sofia's heart swelled. She pressed a soft kiss to his chest. "And I'll be with you, every step of the way." For the first time, Adrian's walls fully lowered. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her as if letting go would mean losing the only thing worth living for. "Sofia, I love you," he whispered. She lifted her head, eyes locking with his. "I love you too." But outside, the city had not forgotten. Shadows moved closer, unnoticed by anyone but Adrian. He had warned her, prepared her, yet the tension remained, unseen threats lurking around every corner. The calm inside the apartment was temporary. The storm of his past was coming. And as Sofia rested in Adrian's arms, she didn't know that the next moments would test not only their love, but their courage, trust, and the very bond that had brought them together. The rain had returned that evening, a relentless curtain drenching New York City. Sofia and Adrian had spent the day quietly in a safe apartment, planning and preparing, every shadow outside a reminder of the threat that loomed over them. Sofia was pacing the small living room when Adrian appeared from the kitchen, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You've got to sit down," he said gently. "Your mind can't run 1,000 steps ahead all the time." She shook her head. "I can't help it. They're out there, and I keep thinking about what could happen." Adrian stepped closer, setting a cup in front of her. "Then we face it together. You're not alone in this. Ever." Before she could reply, a sharp sound shattered the tense quiet, a window breaking in the corner of the apartment. Both of them froze. hearts pounding. Adrian's eyes went dark with determination. "They're here," he muttered, grabbing Sofia's hand. "Follow me. Quickly." He led her through a hidden back door he had installed weeks ago, into a narrow alley behind the building. The rain plastered their hair and clothes to their bodies, and Sofia's heart raced, not just from fear, but from the adrenaline of running alongside him. A black SUV had parked a block away, its tinted windows hiding the figures inside. Two men stepped out, moving with precise, coordinated steps, weapons glinting faintly under the streetlights. Adrian pressed Sofia against a wall, shielding her as they crouched. "Stay close. Don't move," he whispered. Her hand found his instinctively, and she realized fear didn't erase love. In fact, it made it sharper, more urgent. The confrontation escalated in minutes. Adrian moved with calculated precision, using the shadows to his advantage. Sofia watched in awe and terror as he disarmed one man with a swift motion, then pulled her behind him as another lunged forward. "You're amazing," she whispered, breathless, clutching his arm. "I'm keeping you alive," Adrian replied, his eyes never leaving the threat. "That's all that matters." Moments later, the men retreated after realizing Adrian's skill and determination. Sofia and Adrian, drenched and panting, stood in the alley, hearts still racing. Sofia turned to him, her hands trembling as she cupped his face. "Adrian, you scared me. But I've never felt more alive." He smiled, though a shadow of worry lingered. "That was just the beginning. They'll come back, and next time it might be worse." Sofia pressed herself against him, ignoring the rain, soaking them to the bone. "Then we face it together. Always." He wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly, as if letting go would mean losing her forever. The world outside, the danger, the threats, the shadows, didn't matter in that moment. All that mattered was them. That night, in the dim glow of the apartment, Sofia and Adrian finally allowed themselves a moment of closeness beyond words. They sat together, drenched, shivering, but hearts entwined. "You're incredible," Sofia whispered. "Even in the middle of chaos, you're amazing." Adrian kissed her forehead gently. "And you're braver than I could ever imagine. I swear, Sofia, I'll never let anyone hurt you. Not ever." She rested against him, feeling the warmth of his body and the certainty of his promise. The storm outside mirrored the storm of their lives, chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous. But inside, there was a calm that only they could create together. The city streets were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that made every shadow seem alive. Sofia's pulse throbbed in her ears as she followed Adrian through a maze of back alleys, each step heavy with tension. They had been moving for hours, hiding, watching, waiting. But now, Adrian knew it was time. "They're coming for us," he whispered, voice tight with controlled anger. "And I know who's leading them." Sofia's stomach dropped. "Who?" Adrian stopped, pressing his back against the brick wall of a dark alley. "It's someone I trusted here in New York. Someone I led into my life before you. They knew too much, and they sold me out." Sofia's eyes narrowed. "Do you know why?" He shook his head. "Not completely. But I'll find out. And I'll stop them. I promise." The sound of footsteps echoed behind them. From the shadows emerged a figure they hadn't expected. "Adrian." The voice called, smooth but dangerous. "Did you really think you could hide?" Sofia gasped. It was Marcus, Adrian's former partner, someone he had trusted implicitly before disappearing from his old life. Marcus's eyes were cold, calculating, and filled with betrayal. "Marcus," Adrian growled, stepping protectively in front of Sofia. "I should have known you'd betray me." Marcus smirked. "You should have known better. People like you always think they can start over. But the past doesn't forgive. And now, it's time you pay for running away." Sofia felt fear grip her, but Adrian's hand found hers, firm and grounding. "Sofia, stay behind me," he said. "No matter what happens, I won't let anything happen to you." Her grip tightened on his arm. "I'm not leaving you. Ever." The confrontation escalated quickly. Marcus had two men with him, armed and dangerous. Adrian moved with calculated precision, using his past skills to disarm them and shield Sofia. Sparks of fear, adrenaline, and unspoken desire coursed through Sofia as she watched him. You're amazing, she whispered breathlessly during a brief pause. Adrian's eyes met hers, full of intensity. Not amazing, just fighting for the only person I can't live without. Her chest tightened. Despite the danger, despite the chaos, she knew one thing. She loved him, and she would stand by him through anything. Finally, after a tense, heart-pounding battle of wits and skill, Marcus and his men were forced to retreat. Adrian pressed Sofia against him, their bodies drenched in rain and sweat, hearts racing in unison. "You okay?" he asked, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Sofia nodded, pressing her lips to his. "I'm okay because you're here." Adrian's lips met hers in a kiss full of relief, longing, and love. The kind of kiss that spoke of battle survived, secrets shared, and trust earned. They clung to each other as the rain poured down, the city around them a blur, irrelevant compared to the world they had built together. That night, in a safe hideout far from the city streets, Sofia and Adrian finally allowed themselves a moment of intimacy and peace. "I don't care about your past," Sofia whispered, tracing patterns on his chest. "I only care about us right here, right now." Adrian held her close, his forehead resting against hers. "And I love you more than I can say. You've given me a reason to fight, a reason to hope, and a reason to believe and love again." Sofia smiled softly. "Then let's stay like this together. Always." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside, Sofia and Adrian had found their calm, a love forged in danger, strengthened by trust, and made unbreakable by the shadows of the past. The first light of dawn crept over New York City, brushing the wet streets with soft gold. The night storm had passed, leaving a quiet calm in its wake. Sofia and Adrian sat together in the safe apartment, wrapped in blankets, exhaustion etched into their faces, but hearts still racing from adrenaline. Adrian leaned back against the couch, eyes closed for a brief moment. "That was too close," he admitted quietly. "I thought I had dealt with the last of my past, but it's never that simple." Sofia rested her head on his shoulder, fingers tracing patterns over his chest. "We survived. That's what matters. And we're together." Adrian opened his eyes, looking down at her. "I don't deserve you, Sofia. You've stayed by my side through danger, through fear, through everything. I don't know how I got so lucky." Sofia smiled softly, pressing a kiss to his temple. Luck had nothing to do with it. It was fate, and maybe a little courage. Over the next few days, Adrian worked to tie up the loose ends of his past. Marcus and his men had retreated, but Adrian knew the threats were far from over. Sofia insisted on helping, not by fighting, but by being his anchor, keeping him grounded, reminding him why he was fighting in the first place. "You've given me a life worth living," Adrian said one evening as they walked through a quiet, rain-washed park. "And I don't ever want to lose that. You're my reason for everything." Sofia's heart swelled. "Then let's promise something," she said, looking into his eyes. "No matter what happens, we face it together. Always. No secrets, no running, no hiding." Adrian smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Always," he agreed, sealing it with a tender kiss that spoke of trust, hope, and love stronger than any fear. With each passing day, the shadows of Adrian's past began to fade. The city returned to its familiar rhythm, but for Sofia and Adrian, life had changed forever. They were no longer two strangers connected by a chance encounter. They were partners, allies, and lovers, bound by trust, courage, and an unbreakable bond. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, they sat together on a quiet rooftop, the wind tousling their hair. Sofia leaned against Adrian, feeling the warmth of his body and the safety of his presence. "You know," she said softly, "if I hadn't given you that cup of water that day, none of this would have happened." Adrian laughed softly, pulling her closer. "Then that cup of water changed both our lives, and I wouldn't trade a single moment." Sofia smiled, her heart full. "Neither would I." They kissed as the city lights flickered below, the past behind them and the future wide open, a future filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. Sofia and Adrian sat together at the kitchen table, hands intertwined, coffee steaming between them. It had been weeks since the last confrontation. Marcus and his men had vanished, and Adrian had finally tied up every lingering thread from his past. The city was theirs, not because it had changed, but because they had. Stronger, braver, and inseparable. Sofia looked up at Adrian, her eyes soft with affection. "Can you believe it?" she asked quietly. "All of this from a single cup of water." Adrian laughed softly, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "I can, because it wasn't just a cup of water. It was the start of everything I never knew I needed. You changed my life, Sofia. Completely." Her heart swelled. "And you changed mine. You showed me love isn't just about comfort, it's about trust, courage, and standing together, no matter what." He leaned across the table, pressing his lips to hers in a soft, lingering kiss. "I promise nothing will ever come between us again. Not the past, not danger, not anything." Sofia smiled, resting her forehead against his. "Then let's make a promise too. No matter what the future holds, we face it together. Always. Forever." Adrian's eyes glistened. "Forever," he echoed, sealing it with a deep, passionate kiss that spoke of every emotion they had shared. The fear, the trust, the longing, and the unbreakable love that had grown stronger through every challenge. Over the following months, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. They walked the city streets hand in hand, shared quiet mornings in the cafe, and laughed at small, silly things that reminded them how precious their bond was. The shadows of Adrian's past never returned, replaced instead by the light they had built together. One evening, on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline, Adrian held Sofia close, their hearts beating in sync. The world stretched out beneath them, bright, endless, full of possibilities. "You know," Adrian said softly, "every choice I made, every risk I took, led me to you." Sofia smiled, resting her head on his chest. "Then it was worth it," she whispered. "Every single step." Adrian kissed the top of her head. "And now, we begin the rest of our lives. Together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city in shades of gold and crimson, Sofia and Adrian stood hand in hand, hearts entwined, ready to face whatever life had in store, side by side forever. In that moment, they understood the truth of their journey. Love could survive fear, danger, and secrets, but only when it was built on trust, courage, and the choice to fight for each other always. And they would fight for each other, always.